I have a question.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
How is this increasing efficiency if you're still just adding more H2 to the reactant side?
Our purpose is to make more HF. Equilibrium has a psychology, reverse psychology. If I increase hydrogen concentration, equilibrium is going to shift. That's what the Chatlier says. What direction is it going to shift toward the direction which counteract what I did? What did I do? I increased hydrogen concentration. So equilibrium is going to shift to decrease hydrogen concentration. So there are only two ways equilibrium can move. Either go to forward or backward, right? That's all. If it goes forward, it will consume H2. And that's what equilibrium wants to do. Equilibrium wants to counteract what we did. But it has to go to right, to consume H2, to make more HF. It's just like telling your 5-year-old brat that, honey, would you shut the door? He's going to do the opposite. He can do two things. Shut the door, which is agreeing with you, or opening the door, or windows, which is disagreeing with you. Chatlier says equilibrium disagree with you, counteract. Whatever you do, they do the opposite. I'm increasing hydrogen gas. Equilibrium could either go to forward, that means go from left to right, and if it does, it will make more HF and less H2. Or it could go backward. That's all equilibrium could do. If it goes backward, what happens if this equilibrium goes backward? Backward means reaction goes from right to left. That means HF is going to break down to make F2, and it will make more H2. So if we increase the H2, equilibrium is not going to increase the H2. It will do something to decrease the H2. The only thing equilibrium can go, change the direction, shift, left to right or right to left. Obviously, left to right is going to consume H2.
That all makes sense. I'm just wondering, excuse me, there's nothing that can be done to improve the yield percentage? Because if you're just adding more reactants, right?
Yes, there is. If you are making more HF, you're improving the yield of product, aren't we?
Even if you're adding more on the reactant side as well?
Yes, actually increasing the reactant size. Mm-hmm. Adding more reactant is going to help you make more product. That's what Chatlier says. Why? Equilibrium shifts toward direction of counteracting what you have done. Okay, so let me give you another example. What happens if we add HF? If I add HF, if I increase concentration of HF to the reaction mixture, I'm increasing. Chatlier says equilibrium is going to respond to your change. What is the response of equilibrium? Opposite to what we have done. What is opposite of increasing HF? Knowing that reaction can shift. If it shifts to left, it's going to consume HF. And that's what equilibrium like to do. We increase concentration of HF, equilibrium has to shift to a direction to decrease concentration of HF. Therefore, it's going to shift to left. It will shift to left. That means reaction is going to be reversed. By adding HF, reaction would be going back to a starting material. Okay. Guys, what if I take hydrogen away? Is the equilibrium going to interact to the changes that I made? What sort of interaction do you expect? What would Le Chatlier says? Le Chatlier says, whatever you do, equilibrium is going to shift. It will shift in a direction to counteract what you did. What's counteract? I'm decreasing hydrogen gas. So if I am decreasing, if I am removing concentration of hydrogen gas, equilibrium should do the opposite. It's going to shift. Which direction? What is the opposite of decreasing hydrogen concentration? Is increasing. Which direction reaction is going to go? Either to right to make more HF, or to left to make more H2. Obviously, the equilibrium is going to choose to go to left. That's the only way it could counteract removing hydrogen, by making more hydrogen. How could it make more hydrogen? By moving to left, colliding HF and HF. So they decompose back to where they came from, F2 and H2. Any questions? Okay. So what if I remove HF from reaction mixture? That means I'm decreasing concentration of HF in the mixture. I'm not touching concentration of F2 and H2. I'm removing product, but equilibrium is going to respond to changes. What would be the response of equilibrium? To do the opposite what I did. What is opposite of decreasing HF? Is it making more HF? So which direction reaction is going to go? Sorry, my slides are jumping again. Which direction reaction could go? Either to the right or to the left. Which direction increases concentration of HF? Going from left to right is making more HF. Going back is going to decrease HF. So reaction is going to go forward. This is the direction if I remove HF from the mixture. Any questions? So that's one change. We can change the concentration of the mixture of equilibrium. And then equilibrium is going to shift toward counteracting the change. Another thing that we can do is to change the temperature, is changing temperature of a chemical reaction, which is at equilibrium. It's changing the temperature of an equilibrium reaction. How do you change the temperature? Suppose you place the reaction mixture in a test tube in an ice, you're changing the temperature. Or suppose you heat the test tube, you place it in a hot water bath. Is this going to change the concentration of reactants and product, the concentration of mixtures? Well, let's look at this reaction. What type of reaction is this? Is this reaction producing heat? Because energy, 22 kilocalorie per mole of nitrogen, energy is produced, right? Because energy is on the product side, not on the reactant side. So everything on the right-hand side is produced. If this reaction is heat producing, can I say this reaction is exothermic? It's generating heat. And if I remove it, let's say I am decreasing the amount of the heat. That means suppose I place the mixture in an ice, in a beaker containing ice water. So the system is losing heat, it's getting colder. If it is colder, if it is losing heat, what is equilibrium going to do? Opposite of what we did. What's opposite of what we did? Well, we remove heat, so reaction equilibrium is going to result shift in a direction to counteract the change. That means do something to make more heat. And we said the only things which are open for an equilibrium is to shift either to right or left. Go forward or go reverse. These are the only things it will do. Which direction should the equilibrium shift to make more heat? Well, look, can I say going from left to right is going to produce more heat? So if I place the reaction mixture in ice water, equilibrium is going to shift to right to produce it. Yes? That means reaction goes forward. You get more ammonia, you get more NH3 if you cool down the mixture, if you reduce the temperature. What do you do if you are sitting in your home and all of a sudden somebody opens the door and windows? It's winter time. It gets really cold. What would you do? You are removing heat from your surrounding. You try to generate heat. How would you do that? You probably plug in your electrical heater to warm up. Because you're losing heat, you need heat, you're cold, you generate heat. Equilibriums do exactly what we do. That's why there is a logic on what we do. Because there is a logic in what chemicals do in our body. So, what if I add heat? That means we have a mixture of N2, 3H2, reaction has come to equilibrium, you have some NH3, and heat is released, and test tube is hot. And we place this inside a boiling water, which is a higher temperature than the test tube. So I am adding heat. So guys, if I am adding heat, what would equilibrium do? Equilibrium will try to reduce the heat, right? So equilibrium will counteract the change by reducing the heat. In other words, if you are really hot, and let's say you are drying your hair with a hair dryer, and you're adding heat to your body, which are already hot, you have to do something to reduce the heat. What do? You may get a cold glass of water. So you added heat to your body by drying your hair. You got even hotter in a very hot day of summer. So you want to cool down. What do? You want to cool off? You have to remove heat from your body by drinking a cold drink. Equilibrium do the same thing. We increase the heat in a reaction which is already hot and forming heat. What is the opposite of increasing heat? Moving. Equilibrium is going to move a direction to consume heat. So do you see in this reaction, going forward from left to right is producing heat. What is opposite of producing heat, which is consuming heat? Reaction has to go reverse. If reaction goes from right to left, it's consuming heat. So do you see in an exothermic reaction, if we lower the temperature, we'll make more. Equilibrium is going to shift to right. We make more product and less reactant. So this is the second factor that we can control an equilibrium reaction, push it in a direction to make more product or This is the way we can predict the shift of equilibrium. Reactions which are at equilibrium respond to any changes. And the response is shifting the equilibrium to right or left, forward or reverse, by counteracting the change that we make in the environment of chemical reaction.